About some macro stuff. Shereen, Bhan caught up with the World Bank President Jim Yong Kim, who is in India, and started by asking him his views on Brexit and the impact that it would have on global markets eventually. Listen in.
I think many people were surprised. Many people thought that the vote wouldn't happen that way. But this is a democratic process, and the vote went as it did. We're watching a lot of different things. Of course, as the World Bank Group, our biggest concern is what will this mean for developing countries. Now, luckily in India, it seems like the impact will be relatively muted. There's not a huge amount of exposure. The stock market went down for a bit, but then it rebounded quite nicely. And I think that's an indication of the health of the Indian economy today. It's the fastest growing economy in the world at around 7.5%. So for India, it doesn't seem like there'll be such a big impact. But we're following many other issues. What will happen to oil and gas prices? There are many different forces going on right now. Commodity exporters in developing countries have been having huge problems with overall the growth rate that's approaching 0, and it was over 2% last year. So there are many different things. The world, global markets, don't like uncertainty. And one of the things that we're seeing that's definitely happening is, of course, the flight to safety. People are gold, U.S. Treasuries, even Japanese yen paying negative interest rates. Of course, German bonds are still extremely popular despite the fact that interest rates are negative there. And so what that means also is that access to finance for developing countries will probably get worse.
In terms of some of the measures that have already been taken and some that haven't, are you disappointed perhaps that the government ought to have been bolder in trying to address the NPA situation to try and bring down government ownership of banks? Do you believe that perhaps there should have been much more bolder measures taken by the government to address that? Well, and do you believe that that is a key risk facing India today?
Well, I think if you look at the different measures, Prime Minister Modi announced so many bold measures simultaneously. So even if you look at small things like, for example, the bankruptcy laws that were put into place, this is so important for the investment climate. The reforms that have been already announced are extremely bold, and some of them, the goods and services tax, which would be so critically important, Prime Minister Modi put that out, but other political parties that are in existence also have endorsed it, but right now it's stuck. If these things happen, if all the things that Prime Minister Modi has already announced actually can happen in the context of the political climate in India, India will be a very, very different place. So every leader has to weigh the boldness of reforms with the practicality of getting it done in particular economic context. We're impressed with Prime Minister Modi's boldness on so many different issues, and we're simply trying to support him in making them come to fruition.
All right, that's another fan of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's take a short break, but as